Hello guys, welcome to the first episode of Lumion 10 tutorial. First subject that I'm being asked a lot is what is the good system requirement for Lumion? And as you can see in the Lumion website, the recommendation system, we have a minimum requirement and we have a high-end requirement. In minimum, we need 3 GB of graphical card and CPU benchmark needs to be above 2000. And we need 16 GB of RAM for Lumion. In recommended requirement, minimum 6 GB of graphical card, and we need to pay attention that in minimum requirement, it's used for small parks or residential buildings with Lumion model and texture. And you can use high detail objects here with a limitation, and you cannot use it a lot. And as much as you have a better system, you can use more detailed object in your design. And as you can see, in recommended requirement, you need 6 GB of graphical card and 16 GB of RAM. You can create a landscape with high amount of detail and with a few highly detailed components. But the best system that can be used for Lumion is in high-end requirement. It's usually like a 2080 Ti graphical card NVIDIA, which is 11 GB and 16 GB or more RAM. We've considering that the RAM for the system and the graphic card is really high. You can create a highly detailed city, airport, stadium, or highly detailed multi-floor building interior. And you can use multi-high detail objects in your design. The thing that I'm usually using a lot in Lumion, from this part that we enter, we choose computer speed, and it will show us the benchmark for Lumion. And as you can see, the benchmark that I'm using is on 100%, and my graphic card is 4 GB with 2.5 GHz CPU. And you need to pay attention that Lumion only supports 1 GB or 1 CPU, and it cannot support 2 GB or server computers. And this format that I'm using is good for medium scales, and I don't have any problem with that. And one of the things that could make this better is for me to increase my GPU to 6 GB. So the first thing is you to check your benchmark. And if you have an open program, you better to close it and rerun the benchmark again. Like this. So we go back to the main menu and let's get to now our workspace. In new, if you want to choose a file, we have 6 presets, which you can choose a background for your project from these models. But in general, these presets are all alike, and you can turn each one of them to each other. So basically, it doesn't really matter, but in the places that we have forest environment, we'll create a foresty environment for you. or suburban environment. And for the sake of the file to be a little lighter, we choose something simpler. This was the first step, and here we have different samples and projects that are pre-existing in Lumion. So you can see what you can do with these. So I will choose plane here, which is quite light, and we'll explain how we can move inside Lumion program. And now we entered our workspace. Well, luckily for us, Lumion is extremely user-friendly. And when we use programs like DirectX, it shows skylight and materials, everything inside our project. We use right-click. If you hold right-click and you move it, you will change the view angle for the camera. For zooming in and zooming out, you can use mouse scroll. And if you press Q, W, E, and ASD, these are the key combination that is being usually used for games. And with W you can move forward, S you can go back, D go right, and A go to left. So you can use this 6 key combination to move around. So with the combination of these keys and right click, you can move inside your environment very smoothly. If I hold shift at the same time while moving, the movement will be faster. And if I hold shift and space, it will move it even faster. And if you want to move it slower, we will just hold space. It will reduce it to half. And at the same time on your keyboard, keys for moving left and right will do the same thing. We got 4 different main group here, which these 4 contains weather, landscape, which changes the landscape and you can change topography with it, and materials. So you can change materials and put materials on the objects that you import here or you create. And in objects you can use preset objects that are already inside program. And some of the objects you can import them inside this program. In this area, let's review some programs that we are already using. For example, in content library that we have, if we have Lumion Pro, we have 5,488 models. Which means you have plants, tree, human figures, models, everything. And from AXYZ company, you have some highly animated, high quality people, which is like 345 characters, and all different type of effects. And the materials that are already in Lumions, like 1,229 materials. And materials with displacement mapping is 167, and high quality material from the company Polygon. Now, the thing that I want to tell you is that here is basically a complete archive for everything that you want to use. So if you just click on each one of them, you can see a lot of objects that you need to use them in your environment, which we explain them in detail later on. Now let's go to weather. In weather, you can increase or decrease the sunlight and change the amount of clouds that you have in your environment, and the angle of the sun and the direction of the sun. So you can change weather setting just like that. And at the same time, if you activate real sky, some manual setting will be cancelled and you only need to change the direction of the sun. Here they use something called HDRI pictures, and the lighting in your environment is used with using those pictures. If I click here, we have cloudy, evening, morning, overcast, sunset, clear, and night. And overcast is used for raining days, and sunset, as it says. And as you can see, we have all different type of sky and environment. So in this area, you can import a really good realistic lighting in your design. You choose cloudy, and I will import one of the skies that I think is good. Let's move to landscape now. And in landscape, we have 6 different icons. First one is raise. We can increase or decrease the brush side and brush speed, the amount of speed that will increase the height of the place. So you can just do this to create a topography. And if we choose lower, we can create a pit here. We basically create a landscape that is suitable for our project. And we'll do this a lot in the future when we're working on the project. And if you're importing a project, we can create a landscape with it. And we have flatten here, which will flat the surface for you on each level that you place it. So if I do it down there, it will stay flat like that. So it will create an area with the same level of the previous one. And jitter will create a mountain area, just like that. And with smooth, you can make the edges smoother and your landscape smoother. So let's do this again. Yeah. And you can save these settings that you did, or you can just make it flat. We go back and we can save these settings in the area that I want. And we can load it later on, the settings like this. So you can create a preset for yourself and save it. And whenever you need it to use it, you can upload it for your project. So we have water here. We choose a placement subject and we just need to click on my landscape and we can place the water just like that. And we can change the size and the height of it. So in here we have 6 different types of water, which is tropical, pound, and suitable to the atmosphere that you need, you can use it. Let's remove the water with delete and the controller that is here. And we activate ocean. So with one click, you will add ocean to your landscape. You can change the density of waves. So you can say how intense they would be. The turbidity and wind direction and wind speed. And in height, you can choose the height of the water that you want to have. And if you want to move slower, you will hold shift to work more carefully. And here you have some color preset, and you can choose the colors that you want with the brightness that you want. But I prefer to use the color preset that already exists here. And at the same time, if you go to height and we choose raise, you can add some to your landscape and create an island like that. So in color or paint, very carefully. So we have paint, which we have 4 slots for our materials. So we just have to click it. You can change the basic of the color in your landscape, and you can change the tile size to make it bigger or smaller. So for example, we create a farmland, we reduce the size, and here we start painting on the areas that we want. So let's make the first one to a simple grass, and then we paint the areas that is close to the water. We can increase the speed of the brush to color the area faster. So, and as you can see, you can change the landscape to your design, and you can change the size after that with that option. Again, we can choose the next material, so we can have different type of material in this island. And in the future, I will explain how you can import your own textures and the materials that you want to use in your design. So we create a sandy area here. And next to these rocks that are going down, we have side rock option, which with toggle rock you can remove or add it. You can click here, so you can change the size or even the texture. So you can control this with the texture that you like. Just like that. And when you want to choose your landscape, you have different type of landscape that you can use, and with a very simple click you can have the preset for that landscape. There's a very interesting option here that is landscape grass. And when you turn it on, something interesting will happen. In Paint, the option that got this icon on it, it counts as a grass. So let's color one area and it contains grass on it. And if I go back to landscape grass, we can increase the size, the height, and the wildness of it. So it has ups and downs. And if we change it in Paint, the color will also change. We can change the direction of the light, so it creates something more pleasant. In landscape, let's remove the snow, and I prefer, if you want to have the snow to be on the grass, which is the mixture of snow and grass. And in a place that we want to add grass, we can do it like that. So pay attention, in landscape, when you click, you can add some stones or flowers in the middle of them. They will show themselves better when you reduce the height of your grass. You can spread them and randomize the placement of them, and create different type of flower in your landscape. And as you can see, we create a pleasant landscape for ourselves here, which we only need to add a sunset to give us a better environment, which I think it's good to test all of them to see which one is good, to enjoy the environment in the program. And I would recommend just to spend one day and get to know any and every setting inside the program. So we just created this landscape. And there is one other option here, which unfortunately you don't have it in cracked version. The one is OpenStreetMap. And it works like this, that it will choose one part of OpenStreetMap, like a city block. It will import it inside Lumion, which unfortunately this one doesn't work in Iran, but I will show you some similar ones here. But hopefully later on, if they create a crack version in the future better, we can use it. So this is the area that OpenStreet can give you inside Lumion without material, and later on you have to add material to it. And it's really good to have a program like that. And if I remember correctly, Lumion version 8 was a cracked version for it that you could do this on it. But to be honest, I prefer to use Lumion version 10 because it got better quality to it. But if you are using a city project, you can use this and enjoy and enhance your project. In order to have some variety in this session, in object we choose nature. With double click you can have trees. And we can import some trees inside this area from the trees that we have, just by simple clicking. And later on, we'll talk about how to copy, how to move them, how to rotate them. We will work with everything. But for now, we want to change the environment a little bit to create a good atmosphere. Because we want to load a project later on inside this area. We create a cloudy area, and as you can see, we have a very pleasant landscape. Like that. I hope you enjoyed this session, and every one day in between I will upload a new file for you guys, and it will continue till we cover every single detail in Lumion. So be at ease, and you will learn Lumion from 0 to 100, and be sure to share your stuff online with me on social media.